Welcome to Becoming Church, the podcast where we discuss how the message and movement of Jesus is not just about becoming Christians, but about becoming the church. I'm your host, Kristin Mockler-Young, and I'm so glad you are joining the conversation. And we are back. Hey guys, this is Kristin again, and I have the delight of a friend today, and my internet friend, evandodson. Evan, hello.
Hello. Oh my goodness. I'm so excited to be here to actually talk to you, not just via Instagram or something. This is a dream.
Right? I'm so excited. So a little background, Evan works for the PMG. He works for, which is the Popcast Media Group.
Popcast Media Group. Yep.
Which is a whole nother podcast that if you follow me on social media at all, you've heard me talk about over and over again.
You're our best promoter, honestly, I think.
I truly love you guys so much. But you work specifically for the Bible Binge podcast.
Correct.
So tell us a little tiny bit about that.
Yeah. Okay. So the Bible Binge, it's kind of hard to describe. The tagline that I've worked on, for whenever I'm in a coffee shop and someone asks you what I do, the tagline is, if People Magazine taught your Bible 101 class. That is the vibe that we're going for at the Bible Binge. So Perfect. You've got stories from the Bible. We unpack them like they're a movie or TV show. We've got episodes called Favored or Forsaken, where we take Christian news, analyze that, and then a few other types of episodes. It's such a good time though.
It is the most good time. So it's basically for people who love Jesus, are serious about Jesus, but not serious really about anything else.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It is the most fun. So yes, you and I have been, I would say, internet friends for years. How long has it been?
Probably, because I came on the Bible Binge right at a year ago.
Okay.
So just a little bit over that. So probably right around then. Yeah.
Yes. So we Instagram all the time.
Exactly.
Evan does office hours on Instagram for the Bible Binge. So if you need to go follow them on social media. And then if you have questions, you submit them. He will answer. He does Oreo taste tests whenever there's new flavor.
Absolutely. I like to inform the people about important things, Yes,
exactly. All the conversations that we really need to be having right now.
Exactly. Yeah. Some hard-hitting journalism via Instagram,
Yeah.
So.
Yes. So you are on staff at the Bible Binge, but you're also in seminary.
Yeah.
So talk to me about that, because I know, and we'll get there. I don't want to fast forward too much.
Yeah, of course.
I know that your initial track or goal for seminary has shifted a bit.
Of course. Yeah. Bible Binge was not on the vision board years ago. So this is so I've been in seminary for 3 years now, and I will graduate in April. I'm doing a master's of divinity. I'm in Portland, Oregon. So I'm at Western Seminary there. And so whenever I started seminary, which is a normal thing, the goal was to be a pastor. And that just kind of in a vague sense. I knew, I know I really love teaching. I know crafting sermons, that is so fun to me. I really like pastoral work, love the one-on-one conversations like that. And so seminary just felt like, the right next step. Actually, I'll go in a little bit deeper than that. So if it's all right.
Please.
And so, because before seminary, I worked at Walt Disney World. And so it was Walt Disney World to seminary is not a natural transition for most people.
Feel like
probably. Yeah, it's a weird thing. But I was a part of this amazing church there where it was called Mosaic at Walt Disney World. So Mosaic, similar name. So probably no other connections in that other than name, but
I didn't even know we had a campus there. Look at that.
Exactly. Your Disney campus. Yeah. You need to go on some staff retreat there or something to visit.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Prophetic, make it happen.
Absolutely. It's such a great place. But so there was a campus of our church was specifically dedicated for ministry to Walt Disney World, and which is the absolute coolest thing in the planet, And so I was on leadership at that church, and because I've always loved Disney, and that's been one of the things that you and I have bonded over, which has been so magical. And but I also knew that I was really passionate about Jesus. And so for the longest time, I did not know how those two things work together, if they did work together, what that looked like. And so basically just through getting leadership opportunities at my church, getting my feet wet, having people at my church, like mentors and everything, just believe in me and see gifts and stuff that I had not seen before. I just started to realize, I was like, wait, I think I'm supposed to be a pastor. This is weird because I thought I was going to work at Disney World for the rest of my life.
Wow.
And so ended up going to seminary. So yeah.
That's awesome. A church specifically for Disney employees.
Yeah, it is because here's the thing.
Okay, listen to me.
Yeah.
In my mind, probably because I am a pastor who also loves Disney.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, so we're going to do this week is like Jesus in Encanto, and next week is Jesus in Rapunzel. Like, is that what we're doing here? Like, what?
So that's a really, really good question. And I'll tell you, so it's more of like contextualizing how we do all of our ministry rather than having like an infiltration of Disney into the sermons. Okay. But it also does make for some really nice, like easy sermon illustrations, because but it's one of those things too, to where like, so everyone that went to the church, basically, I would say 90% of the people worked at Walt Disney World. And so at Disney World, and the reason it's necessary to have a campus specifically for Disney is its own culture. It's its own city. Essentially, there's 80,000 people that work at Walt Disney World.
Gosh.
Yeah. And so there's just it's a unique culture. And so you need, a unique contextualization of the gospel, or maybe you don't need it, but it helps, Yeah. And so, so it just became a really fun thing. So like we would do this random stuff, like once a month, we would go into the parks as a church because all of us worked there. So all of us got into the parks for free, and we would call it like Uncommon Love at Walt Disney World. And we would just like go and be the kind guests to the people working there that we wish that we would like. Awesome. So people would just be nice and have conversations, which is a rare thing, honestly. So at Disney World. Yeah.
Oh, that's so great. Well, and that's probably where you started, seeing, because I know one of your big things, and I think you and I are very similar in this, is just the idea of like taking the precious out of Jesus, taking the precious out of like all of that, and just seeing him in real life at Disney World or wherever,
Yeah. Yeah. Because it's one of those things like, and I've actually had to do a lot of processing since leaving Disney World. Cause honestly, I mean, leaving, so I could see the fireworks every night from my bedroom window. And that is a rare thing, And so now that I live in Portland, Oregon, that is not the case. It's not the same thing. I'm seeing from my bedroom window here, Yeah. But it's one of those things. I've done a lot of processing since then and realized that I just connect so well to Jesus through Disney. So like all my, like the best places that I could journal were like sitting on Tom Sawyer Island or sitting with a castle in view. And that's where I would go to like do my Bible study or something, and it's just,
that's so crazy. I'm just going to go sit at the foot of the castle and like have a real time, guys.
The foot of the castle, the feet of Jesus, what's the difference there really? That might be heretical, maybe.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So what would you say is, and we're going to get back to your original seminary plan in a second. We're just going to wind and wind and wind.
Also, the thing you'll know about me, anytime I tell a story, it is 10,000 backstories to get to the one question that you ask. So totally shut me up at any time.
No, I love it. What would you say is the biggest thing that you learned, as in became a part of who you were, or how you see Jesus, or how it changed your relationship with Christ? Like, what's the biggest takeaway?
Yeah. So I think it had to be, so it was seeing that Jesus could use the things that I'm passionate about to connect with him, and then to connect with other people as well. Okay. So like so a lot of times, at least in the church culture that I grew up in, we, there's a lot of like idolatry language. And so it was like anything that like, so I always viewed Disney as an idol, And so I was like, well, this is actually just an obstacle to my faith. And so I need to just completely die to all my Disney desires.
Because you liked it too much?
Yeah, I think that was it.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so what I've learned is, And like, I think that is something you do have to check, you know, like, am I creepy obsessed?
Sure.
You know, is this something I need to work through? But recognizing, no, this is actually essentially, like, for lack of a better word, my love language, you know? And so whenever I'm like in prayer, or whenever like in like, you know, if God's speaking to me or something, he's going to, I believe, use the things I'm passionate about, which is Disney. And so it just makes sense to
I
have
love
that
that
antenna
so
up.
much.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I think that's been my takeaway. And even like, I had this like season this summer that was like pretty tough. And it was tough to pray, and all my normal spiritual disciplines weren't working. It was just, I was like, what in the world's going on? And so I just asked myself, like, okay, what do you need right now? And honestly, I just said, the place I can best pray right now, the place I know I can best connect with God is Disneyland in California. So legitimately, I booked a trip to Disneyland and spent 4 days just sitting there. Like, one, we're going to have fun at Disneyland. It was a solo trip. And then two, we're spending time in prayer because I know I can connect to Jesus here. I can't find him anywhere else right now. And so it's just like having the freedom to do that even, you know?
Yeah. Did it work?
Oh, absolutely. We have to get
Awesome. Well, and I think there's something to that. It's not that God can't reach you where you are. It's not that Jesus can't, but sometimes we have blocks. Sometimes we have a hard time finding him. And I think it's okay to go, you know what? People do it. They just do it maybe differently. I think when people go to church, or when people turn on a specific worship song, or they're like, I'm going to read specific scripture, it's the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
You're just finding him at Elsa's castle instead of, you know,
absolutely. Yeah. Right. Oh goodness. Yeah. I know.
I
what
love
a wild
that.
time.
You said God, what did you say? God wants to use what we're passionate about to speak to us. I just think that is I'm like, there's a whole sermon.
Oh my gosh.
Just in that, because I tend to always think from the other side and go, okay, we all need to use our unique voices. We all need to use our unique perspectives, which is absolutely true. You know,
of course. Yeah.
God's going to reach people through you that he will not reach through me, and through every single person listening. Like they all have a unique perspective, a unique way of not only seeing and hearing from him, but also explaining. But then to think about it the other way, that God actually wants to speak to us through those unique passions too. Man, that makes me feel so seen and loved.
Right. And I think what I've seen in that, one of the things I've been really focusing on in the past few years, I think, has just been this idea of friendship with Jesus. And in a friendship, it's like, it's those both things, you know, it's like me finding ways to connect with Jesus, you know, like doing that, but then also Jesus, like me believing that like Jesus wants to spend time with me too. And so of course it would be through like those weird, fun things. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think there's sometimes this idea, I mean, you were talking about idol language of not wanting things to be too fun or to like it too much, but God does want us to be happy. Now, is that our main focus in life, to find happiness? No, of course not.
Right.
But if he's a father, doesn't he want us to enjoy the life that he gave us? Doesn't he want us to enjoy the lives that he created for us? You know?
Yeah. Exactly. And I think like, and that's one of the things I get excited about is like, because it's not going to be like, it's not going to be Disney for everybody, you know, like not everybody listening to this is going to be like, okay, well, Evan said we got to book a trip to Disneyland. So
I mean, I might,
do it. If you need permission, go for it. You know,
yes, this is it.
But I just think it just shows how we are all so uniquely wired in finding freedom and just joy in those things. Because like, I mean, I'll tell you, like Disney is also the place that I'm crying at, you know, it's the place where like, because it's like, it's not just a joy. It's like, there's an ability to tap into emotions there. But then also but carrying that into other spaces too. And so recognizing like, I can't go to Disneyland every weekend, but like, I don't know. It's almost like it helps me work a muscle. I feel like I'm not making, you know.
No,
like,
you are. I was actually just thinking like training wheels. I was like, okay, you go to Disney and that's where you can practice tapping in, unloading, taking down walls, releasing, surrendering, whatever it is, and practicing it in a place that feels spiritually safe for you.
Right.
So that then the next week when you're not there, it's a learning It's a process.
Right.
Hearing from God, it takes practice.
Absolutely.
You know?
And risk too,
Yeah.
So like finding your safe space to do that in, I feel like it's one of those things, those things like this is something that just kind of comes naturally to me, but then trying to explain it to someone's like, how do I not sound like a weirdo right now?
Yep. And if you do sound like a weirdo, I'm like, okay, good. Maybe
right.
This is something that people need to hear.
Right.
That they've never heard before, or that they have thought was weird about them.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You actually recommended, since we're going down this,
of course,
Get Weird.
Oh my goodness.
CJ Cassiota.
Oh my gosh, that book, isn't it so good?
It was so good. We'll link it up in the show notes for anybody that wants to read it. It was a quick read. I actually listened to it on Audible, and I love when the author narrates their own or reads their own books. Mm-hmm. But yeah, just the whole idea. And it really wasn't like a mind-blowing idea. It was essentially be who you are.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he framed it in such a way
that
I've never heard before. And basically that, we're all wired for weird, and we all have our weirdness, but we feel safer with same. And so we have at some point, we had an experience at some point in our lives where people said, hey, actually, this is weird about you. Like not this is unique or special, but it's weird. And so we start to dampen and tamper, and that's not actually what we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah. And I think one thing that I loved about that book and why it spoke to me on such a profound level was the quotes and the people that he like wove throughout it were like people like Roald Dahl, Walt Disney, Fred Rogers, all those people, the people that were deeply ingrained in my childhood, and the things that I could never imagine how they could connect me to Jesus. I mean, I could see the connection with Mr. Rogers, obviously, but others, I'm like, I don't know, but then seeing how he could weave those things together, and it just made me see. And I think this is what we do at the Bible Binge. The divide between the secular and sacred is not as far as we think that it is. I think it's woven together so much more often if we are willing to see it.
Yeah. I'm actually hoping that this conversation and the conversations you guys have regularly will actually show people that not only is it not a wide divide, like maybe it's not even supposed to be divided. Maybe it is supposed to be integrated. Like if there's a spiritual side of us and a secular side of us, how are we ever supposed to reach the people on the secular side?
Right. Exactly. Because I think that's what Jesus is after. He wants a holistic approach to our life. I don't think it needs to be something compartmentalized where, okay, well, I'm a Christian when I go to church on Sundays, but then whenever I go into whatever my hobby or whatever it is, it's only that hobby. I can't put Jesus in that. But that's why I've been able to see like in recent years, sewing has been like my go-to hobby. And so quilting specifically has become a spiritual discipline for me, because that feels like something I'm partnering with the Spirit in and finding out new things about the nature of God. And it's an act of worship, but I'm like, and normally you wouldn't think of something like that as that, but I've realized, no, Jesus wants to holistically impact every area of our life and walk with us in those spaces. And it's just, it's more fun.
Oh my gosh. What have you learned about God from quilting?
So it's almost been,
or is it too specific of a question?
No, that's a really good question. I think I've got a good example for sharing, because there's so many things, but one is recently in my circle of friends, several people have had babies recently. And so the gift that I make for them is I've just been making baby quilts, but what I do is I spend a lot of time in prayer on each one and just asking the Spirit just for words of affirmation for their child, for any prophetic words that could perhaps come out. And then I've, as almost a prayer exercise, I designed the quilt. And so each one's so unique, and then so cool. Each color, each thread, each stitch, everything has meaning in it. So then whenever I give the gift to the parents, I'll sit down and I'll walk them through everything and just talk about how I've prayed for them, for their baby.
Oh my
and
goodness.
That's something I did not have language for, or wasn't able to do, or in that same way before quilting. And it's just been a beautiful thing.
I can see that. It's like a slowing down for you
Oh, absolutely.
too. I know I need a forced pause sometimes to carve out the time to hear from God.
Right.
And so it's almost like a both and, like you're getting that, but then
Right.
also what you're that sweet blessing you're able to then give to those families and basically being Jesus to them.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It's so fun. It's so fun.
That's beautiful. I love that. How would you, for somebody that is listening and goes, okay, well, I didn't realize that I had split my life into secular and spiritual, but now I can see that.
Mm-hmm.
What's a practical you could give them? How can they start to integrate that and bring it all together?
That's a great question. So I think I'm like a serial hobbyist. So I've got like a lot of hobbies. And I think what I would recommend to somebody that starts to seem daunting, maybe just whatever activities you're already doing, like the things that you already enjoy, what would it look like to just maybe start praying a little bit in the midst of those activities? Because the thing is, we don't want to just go 0 to 60 and say like, okay, well now I'm making prophecy quilts for everyone in my community, that's weird, and it won't come naturally,
Right.
But so like, so just like slowly figure out, like another hobby I started to do recently was fly fishing. And that was a brand new thing for me. But that's turned out to be like on like the opposite end of the spectrum from quilting. It's like a get outdoors sort of thing. And so while I'm doing that, I just pray while I'm doing that. And normally I'm out on the river by myself. So it's easy to just pray out loud. So it's just those awareness things of figuring out, how do I actually just invite Jesus into each of these spaces? And that might be not a normal routine. So it's like, it's a muscle that you're going to have to work a little bit, but just say, exactly. Hey, Jesus, can you appear? And if there's anything you can show me, like, help me out right now. Like, help me to acknowledge your presence. But I think the challenge, and this is the little hurdle that I would tell people to get over, is whenever he does show you those things, believe them, because we write them off, but accept them as like, no, that was Jesus. Show me that he's my buddy right now, Right.
I think so often people will pray like, God, talk to me. I don't hear you. And then he speaks and we're like, that wasn't him.
Exactly. Right. Yeah.
He's like, hello. Like,
that was a coincidence, I bet,
Yes. And I think too, I always try to encourage people in that, like, if you get a nudge to call somebody, to text somebody, even if it doesn't make sense, follow through with it, because what's the worst that can happen? If you think God's speaking to you, if you think God is calling you to do even these little tiny things, the worst that happens is that person's like, I don't actually know, like this isn't connecting. And okay, like,
Yeah, exactly.
But
but you have to, no, you go ahead.
I say it definitely is a practice though, too. I think that I started like you a few years ago of just going, all right, Jesus, like come into these, whatever my life is, whatever I'm doing, if I'm with my kids, if I'm doing all my skincare routine, like whatever it is, but then it's trusting, like you said, to just do it. Right. I feel like once you begin to start in the small, then he's like, okay, here's a bigger thing to do. See if you can trust that this is me too. And now it's just kind of become part of my life where I don't have to look for him so much anymore. Right. I can just see him pop up.
Yeah. That's so beautiful. I love that.
It's so great. All right. So I want to go back to Disney.
Yes.
Because how do we not go back to Disney?
Oh my gosh,
right?
I know, right?
All right. And I should have prepped you for this question. Of all the Disney movies.
Okay.
Deep breath.
Sweating already, but great.
Of all the Disney movies, is there one in particular where you really felt like God spoke to you through either the character or the message or like the whole storyline or anything?
That's a good question. I think in recent years, it has been Frozen 2. And I know you've talked about that one too.
I'm like
I know that's the case for you. And so because that is the movie, and it is even in the past few weeks, the Into the Unknown just keeps coming back to my mind. And I mean, I will fight anyone on this. Show Yourself is 100% about the Holy Spirit. I don't care what anyone says about that.
I'm with you.
Right.
I got chills, right?
Yes. Because it's the most beautiful. It's coming in several parts. And then also, and I'll say that, and I'll add another one to it, because legit, this is true too, is Mary Poppins Returns. That movie too, both those ones, if I have a marker for
Which one?
like Mary Poppins Returns.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That one, both those films, specifically during my time that I've lived in Portland, have been some of the most profoundly impactful films that I've seen in the best way. Yeah.
Oh man. Frozen 2, I sobbed in the theater. I mean, my kids were like, "Are you okay?"
Oh, I love that. I love that.
Like, they're used to me crying, but usually like, either number one at the end when it's like a wrap up.
Of course.
Or when everybody else also thinks it's sad.
Right.
Oh my gosh, I cried through the entire Frozen 2. I still to this day, I'm like, I swear Disney wrote that movie for me, because God was like, Kristin Mockler Young needs this message.
Right.
She needs it right now.
Yeah.
And so you're going to make this movie for her.
What was it, Kristin? What was it specifically that like got you in it?
I think for me,
and I know there's probably so many things, but
so many things. There are so many things. I think for me, the big one was, this was a few years ago. This is when I was really feeling a call into ministry.
Okay.
Had not been ordained yet, was really trying to figure out, God, are you actually calling me? Mm-hmm. I was a kindergarten teacher for so many years.
Like, wow. I don't think I knew that. That's incredible.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So this was right in the era of, I think God's calling me. What is he calling me to? Am I enough to do this? And even just to figure out as a person, I'm like, who am I? And who I think I am does not fit the ministry box. And so do I go forward into the unknown of what I think I could be, how I think God could use me to reach people, but it feels dark and scary and like nobody's out there? Or do I stick with what I know and try to like fit into this spot? I mean, it just.
Wow.
Yeah.
Kristin, this morning, as I was going on a morning walk, and I was just like praying for our time here. I was praying for you. And just one thing that like, it's so fun hearing you share all that, because the word that just kept coming as I was like praying for you was just like safe and trustworthy. Like, because I obviously I've seen all your, I watched all your TikToks. I watched your sermons, everything. We've been friends from afar. We've been friends on Instagram, but I'm like, I just trust you. I'm like, I'm excited to talk with you, because like, I know this is a safe space. And I think what a gift for your church, honestly, that like you get to pastor and you get to lead these people. But like, it was those steps of like going into the unknown, of saying yes to that, of actually trusting God. Like, because now we, as someone who's just like quickly looking into your life here, I'm like, oh, I can absolutely see like, yes, you are living into your giftings. You're living into your callings here in the most beautiful way. But to see that fear and that hesitation at the beginning, it's just, what a contrast, So anyway, I'm so thankful for your ministry, and it's benefited me in such beautiful ways. Yeah.
Oh, Evan, thank you so much. It's so sweet. Well, and it even speaks to, I mean, oh my gosh, even this morning, TikTok is new, right? And whatever. I woke up this morning and my phone had blown up, and I was like, oh my gosh, what did I do? Well, here's what it was. I usually get, 200 hits on TikTok, like nothing. No one cares about me over there, which is fine. I live on Instagram. It's okay.
Exactly.
It's like over 3,000, and 95% of the comments are people calling me racist and cussing me out.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
What in the world?
So I was like, well, this is a whole new like venture for me. This is a whole side of the internet that I know exists. Yeah. But I have not experienced myself yet. Oh, and I'm so like, your words could not be more timely, because even just, so I woke up this morning, saw that, it jolted me,
Yeah. Oh, I bet.
And so my quiet time this morning was like, all right, God, you know my heart behind this. Right. You know my message and my reason for even putting this out. Am I wrong? Like, show me if I have done something wrong. Show me if I'm chasing the wrong thing, if my motivation is off, if it's whatever. And I really had to like sit and then be humble and listen. Yeah. And we have God and I had a conversation and I felt like it was fine and there was nothing I needed to do. But I also was reminded that a few years ago, Frozen 2, Elsa, Kristin would have super freaked out. I would have been really wrecked by the opinions of other people. And I just felt today, like, I was like, all right, number one, I have an audience of one.
Yeah.
And number two, I don't feel the need anymore to explain myself.
Wow. Yeah.
And so I then just was able to thank God and just sit and like, thank you for doing a work in me. Thank you for continuing to do a work in me, because I'm so secure in who he made me to be, in my weirdness,
Yeah, right.
that if other people can't see him in me, I don't need to waste my voice or my breath or my time trying to convince people that are not interested in even finding out what the heart behind it was,
Right.
And I can instead spend time with you and having this conversation, for people to listen and to be able to figure out, like, what does it look like for me to be the church? What does it look like for me to find God in my life?
Right.
And had I spiraled from that this morning,
goodness,
all of this would have gone off,
exactly.
Off course. This would never have happened.
Wow. That's incredible to hear, honestly. So because as someone who we're both on the internet, and my entire job now centers around social media and podcast world, and it's so weird, and it's so much uncharted territory, there's hardly a manual for what we're doing,
right?
And it's so weird, and so we can't. But I think the challenge, that's why I get encouraged by you, that's why there's other voices that I get encouraged by, because we have to be constantly asking ourselves, what is our heart motivation? Because the social media world can get so scary, and it can be a dangerous place if we're not constantly humbling ourselves before God and asking, God, am I still following after what I believed you last told me to do?
Right.
It's a wild time. Yeah.
Well, and even that is part of it. We have, oh my gosh, there is such a lack of humility. And listen, a few years ago, Kristin lacked a lot of humility.
Feel that,
I know myself. I know I can go to pride. I know I can go to all of this stuff. But everything else we've said, it's a practice of just going, okay, am I reflecting God in this?
Yeah.
And if I'm not, then I am in the wrong.
Right.
And how can I change that? How can I, not for the approval of other people, but for me to be able to reach them? Am I reflecting Jesus to other people?
Right.
And if I'm not, I need to spend some more time with
we
God.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh. Well, this has been so great. Okay. So a couple more questions and then I will let you go. Let's go all the way back to the beginning. So your original goal was to go to seminary. Let's go back to that first question.
Incredible.
Go back to seminary. You were going to pastor.
Yeah.
Now, when you graduate seminary, now what is the goal? What's God calling you to?
Yeah, that's such a great question. And the goal in short is to go full-time at the Bible Binge, which is so different. It's one of those things. About maybe a year into seminary, because I thought I left Florida with the intention that I was going to go back to Florida after seminary to be a leader at that church back there. Okay,
sure.
And so
makes
that
sense.
was the goal. Yeah, of course. It's what I knew. It's people that I love. It's a community that I still love. So there's no reason not to, honestly. Right. Until I moved. I moved all the way across the country to Portland, where it was, I grew up in the South. I grew up in Louisiana. And so Portland was the opposite of anything I'd ever experienced before. And I got here, and the second I got here, I realized, I think everything's going to turn out different than I thought it was.
Oh, wow.
And it was one of those, I don't know what that means, but I just realized, I had to tell myself a few things to get out here, but I think I need to be prepared for life looking very different than I thought it would. So that's a scary ground to stand on for a little bit. So the prayers that I started praying to God, about maybe a year into seminary. And I made my checklist to him. I was like, okay, God, if I'm just going to name all my desires. I'm going to trust you. And you'll do what you want to do and we'll follow where we need to go. But here we go. I want to stay in Portland. I want to be able to go to Disney World whenever I want. I want to pastor church. I don't want to leave my current church. And, and like this whole list of things. But, so that was my list. I was praying those things. I was like, those are all contradictory things. He cannot
Isn't
answer.
that how we pray though? We're like,
absolutely.
Dear God, if it's your will, I would like A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I.
Yes, exactly.
And definitely not X, Y, Z.
Half those cancel each other out, but you're the God of miracles and I believe you can do it.
Yes.
So
if anybody can, it's you.
Exactly. And so I, out of nowhere, the job posting at the PMG came up, and legitimately, I will honestly tell you this. When I saw that posting, I called my sister because we've been really big. Like, she is just as big of a podcast fan as I've always been. And I saw that, I was like, Carrie, I believe I'm going to get this job. Like, I'm going to get it. I will do what it takes. I'm going to fight for this job. And she's like, okay, great, do it. Like, it's so weird. My undergrad degree was in entertainment industry studies, which is the weirdest. Like, it only exists at this one school that I went to. It's so weird. And now I'm in seminary. And so, like, one of my arguments to Knox and Jamie, I was like, okay, other people might be qualified, like from like a personality standpoint. No one else has a school background that covers the entire podcast media group,
Oh my gosh.
But anyway, long story short, they ended up hiring two of us for this position, that me and Indy, who's my counterpart over on the podcast side, if anyone's listeners over there. But basically they invited me in to work for the Bible Binge, and it has turned out to be the most fun job. And it checked every weird box that I presented to God. And he's like, crazy. Hey, you asked for these things. But I'll tell you, it actually took it was a little unsettling for a bit whenever like I realized like, oh, God actually answered this prayer exactly as I wanted. But he answered it but I didn't have framework. Like I said, the Bible Binge wasn't on my vision board. I didn't that wasn't what I dreamed would be at the end of the road, but it's better than what I dreamed would be at the end of the road. And I didn't know what to do with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I love when God does that. Yeah. That happens so much, I feel like, where we're like,
right?
Here's what I'm praying, and I know the ending, and this is what it is. Yes. And he's like, guess what? Plot twist.
Exactly. Right.
It's still everything you wanted, but you could have never known that this is, more than we can ever ask or imagine, right?
Exactly. And it's one of those things. I have the most fun. It is the audience that we have at the Bible Binge, which you're familiar with. It's a lot of people that maybe have grown up in the church, but have never been told they could ask questions before.
Yes.
It's people that have been hurt by the church and need a safe place to process. Yes. And it's people that are like, maybe like deeply in leadership in their church, but like need an outlet to complain about someone, or, it's all these people. We are the safe space, and it is the highest privilege and such an honor for me to that people trust us, that people trust Knox and Jamie. And because of that, they trust me. And I'm like, this is insane. And it's also one of those places where I work remotely. So I'm not going into the office and hanging out with everybody there. And, but it's the best team on the planet. We work so well together. There's such a trust with each other. And it's one of those places I just couldn't imagine being anywhere else. It's so beautiful. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Well, yes, we are constantly in the comments and Patreon and whatever. We're like, Evan forever.
Oh my gosh. I love it. It's because of everybody that I'm able to, which is so fun. Yeah.
And I just love so much, Evan, just sitting here. I was like, okay, our podcasts are very, very different, obviously. Yeah. But there is a vein of sameness, and we are both, what you guys are doing there, what we're trying to do here is be that safe and trusted place where people can ask questions and be okay with asking questions. And even bring their doubts and just kind of
Oh my
sit in
gosh.
that. And I am so grateful for your time. I'm so grateful for your heart for that, because the world would tell us to compete. The world would
Absolutely.
say, do not come together and do this because you're going
Mm-hmm.
to lose listeners to the Bible Binge. And
Right.
I hope that we do. I hope everybody listening
Yeah.
who is not already listening to you guys starts, because we're not talking about Zac Efron over here. Now, listen,
Right.
as the host, I'm going to bring him up as much as I possibly can.
Of course. Absolutely. You're doing the Lord's work. Yeah.
You know, doing the Lord's work. But
Mhm.
it's just this idea of, once again, it's bigger than just us. It's bigger than just
Right.
you guys. It's bigger than just us. And we need to be the church. We need to do this out in the world,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I love your, I reference, I send this to people at the Bible Binge all the time. Your sermon that you did on deconstruction, it was so beautiful because
thank
you
you.
emphasize that point of what you just said of like, being a church that people can like ask questions within the church. And I think that's such a gift, because so often we want to, we want to run out and there's a time for the sidelines. There absolutely is, you know, maybe that'll come up, but like, it's just creating a safe space where like, we can hold your doubts here. We can hold your questions and like lean on me and cry during that. And the way that you communicate that is so beautiful. And so like, so I send that to people all the time. So just because it's so helpful.
Thank you. I mean, truly, if we want to reach people outside, like I have always said, if I ever pastor a church of all believers, fire me, because I have messed up. Like, if we cannot be a place where people can ask questions and be safe and have these very conversations that we're having on and all these like topics, where can they go?
Right. Exactly.
The world will give them answers.
Yeah.
But not with Jesus kind of interwoven into it, you know?
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, all right. Well, I could talk to you all day, but I'm going to give you one last question.
So
Here's your last.
I've had the best time. So yeah.
All right. Here's the last question, because the podcast is called Becoming Church.
Okay.
What is your favorite way to be the church? Something practical that our listeners right now can go, you know, I'm going to pick this up. I can try this.
Oh, that's such a good question. I think, okay, for me, I would say, and this is something I'm actually like actively trying to work on, is celebrating people. So like because my church in Florida, that was actually one of our biggest strengths, was celebration. Like just because it was natural at Disney, people get crazy and excited about all kinds of stuff. But in Portland, it's kind of the opposite of that culture here. It's a very it's just, that's not the culture. So I was like, I could say a lot, but it's just not it. And so I've been trying to bring that into spaces. So like yesterday at church, like I made a bunch of bright pink cookies that I put way too much food coloring in, and just like brought a giant bag. I was wearing my Valentine's Day a sweatshirt, and just like sat there and just like offered cookies. Maybe not the best idea in a COVID world right now, but like to everyone that was around me. And like, because that's the opposite of the culture at our church, it was such a fun thing. And it like, and I think that's an important thing, but the discipline of celebration is something that, I don't know, I just think is so important right now. And I think that's what I can bring into church spaces. Yeah.
I think it's perfect. I think it's great. And it really is. It's just a way for people to be seen.
Yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
seeing you and I'm celebrating you. And Jesus loves this thing about you as a person.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so awesome. All right, Evan, where can people find you? Where, besides the Bible Binge, where can they find you?
Best place is going to be on Instagram. I'm _evandodson there. So yeah, a lot of quilting stories there, random Oreo updates, Trader Joe's frozen food suggestions. So that's the place to be.
It's a good time. It's a good time. Yes. And you can find me on pretty much all the socials at Kristin Mockler Young. Guys, make sure that you rate the podcast, share it. I do want to share one review real quick. Our very first review was 5 stars, and it's so perfect for our conversation today. Camp Lover 2010 said, "Here for this," with like all the clapping emojis.
Incredible.
She said, "I am here for talking about something and not solving it. We are not just becoming Christians, but representing the church. Cannot wait for more episodes." So hopefully this was one of those conversations where we
so fun.
got you thinking without actually solving anything.
Perfect. I love that.
All right, guys. Evan, thank you so much. And we'll see y'all next time.
Bye. Thank you.